Picture four burned-out astronauts drifting through space for 20 years. Their mission: destroy unstable planets that might threaten future colonization. Their ship is falling apart, their morale is non-existent, and their biggest threat isn't cosmic danger. It's a philosophical bomb that refuses to detonate, and a beach ball alien that's escaped from storage. One crew member spends his days watching for meteor showers that appear once every trillion years, while another surfs back to Earth on debris from their exploding ship. This is Darkstar, John Carpenter's 1974 debut feature that he famously described as waiting for Godot in outer space. What began as a $1,000 USC student film project in 1970 eventually grew into a $60,000 feature that would launch two of science fiction's most influential careers. Carpenter would go on to create Halloween and The Thing, while his collaborator Dan O'Bannon would write Alien, directly building on concepts first explored in this humble space comedy. Released during the height of 2001 A Space Odyssey's influence, Darkstar dared to ask, what if space travel wasn't transcendent and majestic, but mundane and soul-crushing? The result was a deadpan masterpiece that predicted everything from Red Dwarf to the blue-collar space workers of Alien, proving that the most dangerous thing in the universe might just be boredom. Darkstar's greatest achievement is transforming severe budget limitations into distinctive stylistic choices that feel intentional rather than desperate. Working with an estimated final budget of $60,000, Carpenter and O'Bannon created a lived-in, deteriorating spaceship that feels authentically worn down by decades of use. The ship's cramped corridors, jury-rigged equipment, and general state of decay weren't just cost-saving measures. They became the film's central metaphor for institutional breakdown and human entropy. The production design embraces what would later be called used future aesthetics, predating Star Wars by 3 years. Every surface looks dirty, every machine seems ready to break down, and every space feels too small for the people occupying it. This wasn't the gleaming chrome future of most science fiction. It was a recognizable workplace where the coffee machine probably doesn't work and the air conditioning has been broken for months. Quick like and subscribe if you're digging these deep dives into cult classics. The film's special effects, created largely by USC students with professional assistance from Greg Jean and Ron Cobb, demonstrate remarkable ingenuity. The spaceship exterior shots use clever miniature work and forced perspective to suggest massive scale. The planet destruction sequences, achieved through simple but effective optical effects, deliver genuine spectacle despite the tiny budget. Most impressively, the famous beach ball alien, literally a beach ball with monster feet from Creature from the Black Lagoon, becomes genuinely menacing through Carpenter's direction and editing rather than convincing effects work. Carpenter's emerging directorial style is evident throughout, particularly his use of music and atmosphere. His electronic score, performed with synthesizers and creating the template for his later iconic soundtracks, gives the film a hypnotic, meditative quality that amplifies both the comedy and existential dread. The music suggests the vast emptiness of space while emphasizing the claustrophobic interior of the ship. The screenplay, written by Carpenter and O'Bannon during their USC years, originally titled The Electric Dutchman before becoming Planetfall and finally Darkstar, demonstrates sophisticated understanding of science fiction tropes and literary absurdism. The famous ending, acknowledged by O'Bannon as borrowed from Ray Bradbury's Kaleidoscope, transforms cosmic destruction into surreal poetry. The talking bombs, philosophical discussions about phenomenology, and deadpan humor throughout show remarkable sophistication for student filmmakers. Behind the scenes, the production exemplified guerrilla filmmaking at its most resourceful. Beginning with $1,000 from USC's School of Cinema in 1970, the project stretched across multiple years as Carpenter and O'Bannon gradually assembled resources. When producer Jack Harris provided $10,000 for expansion to feature length, they shot additional scenes in 1973. requiring wigs for actors whose hair had grown during the production gap. This piecemeal approach forced creative solutions that enhanced rather than hindered the final product. The performances in Darkstar work because the entire cast commits to playing space travel as the most boring job in the universe. These aren't heroic astronauts or brilliant scientists. They're blue-collar workers who've been stuck together for 20 years, and everyone involved understands the assignment perfectly. Brian Norell anchors the film as Lieutenant Doolittle, the reluctant commander whose main aspiration is surfing. Norell plays Doolittle with weary resignation, like a middle manager who never wanted the promotion. His character's obsession with surfing, which pays off in the film's spectacular ending, feels like authentic escapism from someone trapped in an impossible situation. When he talks to the ship's dead commander, frozen in the observation deck, Norell sells both the loneliness and the practical problem-solving approach these men have developed toward cosmic horror. Dan O'Bannon delivers the film's most complex performance as Sergeant Pinback, the neurotic maintenance technician whose video diary entries reveal he's actually Bill Frew, a fuel technician who assumed a dead man's identity. O'Bannon, who also co-wrote the script, brings manic energy to scenes that could have been purely comedic, suggesting genuine psychological breakdown beneath the surface humor. His encounters with the escaped alien become a masterclass in physical comedy. But O'Bannon never lets us forget, this is a man slowly losing his sanity. Cal Cooneyholm and Dre Pahich round out the crew as Boiler and Talby, respectively. Cooneyholm's Boiler serves as the practical engineer, delivering exposition with matter-of-fact weariness that makes even the most outlandish situations feel routine. Pahich's Talby, the dreamy astronomer obsessed with the Phoenix asteroids, provides the film's most poetic moments. His character represents the wonder and curiosity that originally drove space exploration, now reduced to a single obsessive dream about seeing something beautiful once every trillion years. The film's most memorable performance might belong to O'Bannon's voice work as the bombs, particularly bomb number 20. The philosophical conversation between Doolittle and the increasingly self-aware explosive device becomes a genuine meditation on existence, free will, and phenomenology. O'Bannon delivers these lines with perfect deadpan seriousness, making the absurd premise genuinely thought-provoking rather than merely silly. What makes these performances work is their complete commitment to the premise that space travel has become mundane. These men react to cosmic danger with the same irritation office workers show toward broken copy machines. When the ship's computer malfunctions or the alien escapes, their responses feel like people dealing with workplace problems rather than life-threatening emergencies. The ensemble chemistry developed naturally from the years-long production process. Since the actors were largely USC students working on the project intermittently, they developed genuine camaraderie that translates into believable relationships between characters who've been stuck together for decades. Their interactions feel worn in and authentic, like real co-workers who've run out of things to say to each other. Reception and evolution. When Darkstar premiered at Filmex on March 30th, 1974, it entered a science fiction landscape dominated by the serious philosophical weight of 2001, A Space Odyssey. Critics initially struggled to categorize this strange hybrid of student film, existential comedy, and genuine science fiction. Variety's early review, which Carpenter remembered as the first bad review I got, dismissed it as a limp parody of Stanley Kubrick's 2001 that warranted attention only for remarkably believable special effects achieved with very little money. The film's limited theatrical release through Bryanston Pictures in January 1975 found little commercial success. Opening in just 50 theaters, Darkstar failed to find its audience among mainstream moviegoers, expecting either serious science fiction or conventional comedy. The movie's deadpan humor, philosophical discussions, and deliberately paced narrative confused audiences accustomed to more straightforward genre entertainment. However, critical opinion began shifting as more reviewers recognized the film's unique achievement. Roger Ebert, writing after the film's 1979 re-release, gave it 3 stars and called it one of the damnedest science fiction movies I've ever seen. A berserk combination of space opera, intelligent bombs, and beach balls from other worlds. This reevaluation came after both Carpenter and O'Bannon had achieved major success with Halloween and Alien, respectively. The 1979 re-release by Atlantic Releasing Corporation capitalized on these later successes, with promotional materials noting the film was from the author of Alien and the director of Halloween, and the tagline, "The Ultimate Cosmic Comedy." This marketing approach helped audiences understand what they were getting into, a deliberately absurd take on space travel that shared DNA with more famous science fiction works. Darkstar's cult status developed gradually through midnight movie screenings and early home video releases. The film continued playing in theaters as late as 1980, finding audiences among college students and science fiction fans who appreciated its counterculture sensibility and deadpan humor. The home video revolution of the early 1980s proved crucial to the film's legacy, allowing repeated viewings that revealed layers of detail and humor that weren't immediately apparent. Modern critical assessment has been far more appreciative, with Rotten Tomatoes giving it a 74% fresh rating based on 34 reviews. Contemporary critics recognize the film's influence on everything from Alien to Red Dwarf, appreciating its pioneering approach to used future design and blue-collar space workers. The film's environmental themes, unstable planets requiring destruction, feel remarkably prescient in our current climate-conscious era. Genre enthusiasts have come to recognize Darkstar as a crucial bridge between the philosophical science fiction of the 1960s and the more practical, working-class approach that would dominate the genre in the late 1970s and beyond. Its influence can be seen in films like Outland, Moon, and even the comedy series Red Dwarf, all of which treat space travel as a job rather than an adventure. Hidden details reward careful viewing by modern audiences. The ship's name references Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, while character names like Doolittle suggest both military tradition and futility. The beach ball alien's feet, borrowed from Creature from the Black Lagoon, represent the kind of creative recycling that would become standard practice in low-budget genre filmmaking. Darkstar's influence on science fiction cinema extends far beyond its modest origins, establishing aesthetic and thematic templates that continue to resonate today. The film's used future design philosophy, where technology looks worn and lived in rather than pristine, directly influenced George Lucas's approach to Star Wars. More significantly, it pioneered the concept of space workers as blue-collar employees rather than heroic explorers, a perspective that would become central to the genre. Dan O'Bannon's evolution from this comedy to writing Alien demonstrates the concept's dramatic potential. The basic premise, working-class people trapped in space with dangerous cargo, remained constant while the tone shifted from absurdist comedy to pure horror. This transformation illustrates how fundamental ideas about labor, technology, and human isolation transcend genre boundaries. The direct line from Darkstar's talking bombs to Alien's corporate callousness shows how O'Bannon developed his critique of institutional indifference toward human life. The film's influence on comedy science fiction has been equally profound. The British series Red Dwarf explicitly acknowledges Darkstar as inspiration, sharing its premise of psychologically damaged people trapped in space dealing with malfunctioning technology. The deadpan humor style, where cosmic threats are treated as workplace irritations, became a template for genre comedy that continues in films like Galaxy Quest and shows like The Orville. Carpenter's musical approach in Darkstar established the foundation for his later iconic scores. The hypnotic, minimalist electronic music created atmosphere through repetition and subtle variation rather than traditional orchestral dramatics. This aesthetic would reach full flowering in Halloween's legendary theme, but its roots are clearly audible in Darkstar's meditative soundscapes. In contemporary context, Darkstar's environmental themes feel remarkably prescient. The crew's mission to destroy unstable planets that might threaten colonization efforts parallels modern discussions about terraforming and planetary management. The film's suggestion that space exploration might be motivated by environmental necessity rather than pure adventure has proven unfortunately prophetic, as climate change makes Earth's future uncertain. The movie's portrayal of technology as perpetually malfunctioning and barely maintained resonates strongly with modern audiences familiar with planned obsolescence and corporate corner-cutting. The Darkstar systems breaking down, its bombs developing philosophical objections to their missions, and its crew's resigned acceptance of institutional dysfunction feel like accurate predictions of contemporary technological frustration. Darkstar's cult status demonstrates the enduring appeal of genuinely independent filmmaking. In an era of franchise dominance and corporate-controlled entertainment, the film's scrappy resourcefulness and uncompromising vision feel increasingly rare. Modern independent filmmakers continue to cite it as proof that original ideas and creative problem-solving can overcome budget limitations. Darkstar isn't just John Carpenter's first film. It's a time capsule of possibility, showing what passionate filmmakers could accomplish when they had nothing but ideas, enthusiasm, and an unshakable belief that their strange vision mattered. In our current era of risk-averse entertainment, it remains a testament to the power of creative independence and the enduring appeal of stories that find profound meaning in the most mundane circumstances. Does Darkstar's vision of space travel as soul-crushing routine feel more or less relevant 50 years later, as private companies make space tourism a reality? And in an age of AI and automation, do its philosophical bombs questioning their purpose feel like comedy or prophecy? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this exploration of cinema's hidden gems, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the films that dared to dream beyond their means.